Okay, so in this lecture, we're going to be going over bird anatomy. Now, um, there is a lot of different variations that fall under bird category. For example, a sparrow's anatomy uh, on the surface looks quite different from, say, an ostrich, but underneath, their skeletal makeup is still pretty similar. So, some major components of bird anatomy, keep in mind, is that one, the sternum or breastbone is typically very large, and the reason why is because that is where the wing muscles attach to. That's what helps the bird be able to flap its wings and fly around. So that's one thing. Secondly, the neck tends to be very long. Okay, birds can turn their heads in a lot of different directions, and it also helps them fly when they can use it to help steer. And then most birds also have a short tail. However, that is not always the case. Sometimes they can have a long tail, especially if you're creating a fantasy creature. And then one last thing to note. This is the femur of a bird, and here's the shin bone, which means that this right here is the bottom of the foot if it was a human, and these would be the toes. And not always, but a lot of times one of the toes will point backwards, but that does not always have to be the case. Okay? So, a couple other things. Up here on the tip of the wing, okay, this is actually what we would consider our hand, but the fingers have fused together into one long appendage, which makes up the bird's wing. So in reality, these were at once in the embryo a bunch of long, little, skinny fingers, and throughout the growing process, different atavisms in the egg kicked in to tell it, hey, fuse these together, we're going to make a wing, okay? So, pretty interesting. And if you're drawing the feathers on top of it, they would look like this. Right? About like that would be your feathers. Okay? And the bone structure actually only runs to the very top of it. Alright, so let's look at the muscles for this. So here, as you can see, like I said, there is a very large breast muscle here, and that's to help the bird flap its wings. Okay, we got the thigh, wings, stuff like that. The neck muscle is actually pretty small in a bird. Pretty basic stuff. All right, so let's look at some examples of creature designs that have a bird type anatomy. So first one here is Fawkes the Phoenix from Harry Potter. As you can see, he's basically just a bird. He follows a really simple bird anatomy. We can see here, let's get a different color so we can see it. Have the head. Let's get on the right layer. We have the head, right? The neck should probably come more out like this. Okay, the body. The pelvis back there. And then the wings. Now, the wings come back and then back up. Right? And the legs. Okay, basically just a bird, right? Next one, the owls from Guardians of Ga'Hoole. Those are also pretty much just birds, but they're still considered creature designs because someone has to come up with what they're going to look like, what their different personalities are going to be. And so once again, it's pretty much the same thing. Something you should note is that birds have a lot of feathers, and so it tends to cover up a lot of prominent landmarks on their body. So for example, on the wing here, the wing comes like this. We have the bone underneath here, bends here, and then it bends in, but it goes pretty far back. It goes all the way to a shoulder blade, but we just can't see it because of how many feathers are in the way. Okay? As well as, you should also note that owls also have pretty long necks, right? His skull is actually only about this big, right? His body is down here, and this is going to snake back and connect to his head. But they just have a lot of feathers covering it up. And then as well as with the legs, it looks like these just go back right into his body, right? But it's because his femur bone is being covered up by all the feathers, right? So you can kind of see on this guy right here, the femur sticking out, it goes back, and then the leg comes out. Okay, and that's really what's happening here, right? It's just difficult to tell. All right, and then the last example, this is not actually a bird, obviously, and the anatomy is a little bit different, but I included it in this section because I want to point out some similarities. Right, so first off, we have this same similar size large rib cage, okay, with large breast muscles so that the wings can pull on it. So if you're creating a creature where instead of front arms it has wings, whether it's a dragon or a bird or something else, you're going to want to keep that in mind, that it's likely going to have large breast muscles so it can flap its wings, okay? Has the long neck like a bird and similar leg structure as well. Now, some things to note that are different. Even though this is similar to a bird, the wings are not the same. You can see kind of here that they come up and the arms or the wings are actually just elongated hands. So imagine like a bat, basically. Imagine that the bird fingers never fuse in the embryo. Instead, they form these really long fingers. Okay? And that's what kind of separates a dragon from a bird, unless, of course, you're doing a dragon with feathers. So your assignment for this lecture is to take both the anatomy drawings and copy those, copy down the skeleton one and color code it, as well as the muscles on top of that. Either use tracing paper or a light board or do it digitally, so you can have a solid understanding of bird anatomy, and then find 3 to 5 different images online of creatures that use bird anatomy, creature designs that have a similar makeup. And then I want you to draw the skeletal structure underneath as best you can, okay? Just to give you a solid understanding of, what's going on. And then feel free to post that on the Facebook group. Show other people what you found interesting in the creature designs you studied, and see what other people came up with. So I will see you guys in the next lecture. Thanks.